Hello, my name is Dr. George Mochocki, and welcome to Chapter 4, part of the ongoing series we're doing in Introduction to Business or Business Organizations. Today we'll be talking about ethics. And if you look at everything else, if you talk to anyone about business people, and the first thing you say are business people ethical. And what you'll find out from the reading and everything else from the book that we're utilizing is that ethics has took a kind of a downturn. You have people graduating from MBA schools that 48% thinks it's okay to be a little bit unethical, and that is basically an issue that is facing businesses. So if you look at this course and every chapter you're reading within this book that we're utilizing here by McGraw-Hill, Understanding Business, you have to understand that we have to tell people what ethical values are. Everyone has different viewpoints or understanding of what ethics is. This chapter will kind of give you an overview for business. I teach a principles of management class, and we'll go to the next level, how ethics really affects other people within the organization. So I'm going to try to make this within 10 minutes. So let's talk first of all. Most companies, all companies, even small to large, wants to get established. Not when they first start up, as the first year just trying to keep afloat. After 3 or 4 years and they're up and running, they should establish a code of ethics. Remember, always utilize my mind maps that are included in the Blackboard course shell that's attached with this course. Any course I teach will always use course management system by Blackboard. So anyway, so you go in there, print out the mind maps, and the mind maps or concept maps, you'll always have the first, I'll give you the second tier. But you'll have all the tiers here. So we'll just go through this for a discussion. So look at that, look at the PowerPoint, read the chapters, all right? You should already have that down. Okay. Now, when I look at code of ethics, the reason code of ethics are there because you have two types of employees. You have integrity and compliance. If I look at integrity, that basically this is an individual that loves the country, is honest to the core, does everything that the company requires and has no issues or anything else. He is or she is the type of individual you trust, and if you tell them this is what I want you to do, this is ethical, they will do it. They already have that integrity. They'll, I'm going to pay for the things, and I'll do it. Now, you know, they're honest, they don't steal, they won't rip you off. The other majority, now this may be about 10-15% of my population. Is this what the research is showing? The other one is where most of this is ethics, code of ethics, everything else is based on compliance. You have cameras. If you don't do this, you get fired. You have policies. And the rationale for this is when you're looking at managing ethics, influencing managerial ethics or influencing ethics from a company's perspective, as an individual, I have my own belief system, my own values, my own morals. As an organization, I also have different values or morals or ethical principles that we're going to be focusing on. And the environment has other ones. So if I look at individual real quickly, values, personality, work background. The other one is, let me just slide this over a little bit. The other one is employee theft. Remember, when I look at individuals, you have to make sure you hire the right type of individual and have the compliance, because most of your theft is not from your consumers, it's from your employees, because they understand the inner workings of the organization, okay? And then you have organizationals learned by top management. Remember, if I'm preaching or trying to tell my employees you have to be ethical, and they see me without any words doing unethical practices, changing timesheets, overbilling a customer, overbilling something else because I need the extra, whatever, you are going to set the momentum for your team or for that organization is going to follow to be unethical. And a lot of times when I hire people from other companies, some companies, that's their basic bottom line. You say, well, it's not unethical, everyone's doing it, so we're just doing what everyone else is doing in the population. So if I would hire someone from another company that I know they are introduced to unethical practices, I have to go back in here with a code of ethics and everything else and explain the organizational ethics on this. Now, the other thing you have is also, when you look at ethics, economic, competition, social, cultural, what is acceptable ethically in the host country that you're operating. Here we're talking about in the U.S. So what are the moral fibers? What is ethical, what's not? You see, in Illinois, we have a lot of governors, or several governors, already doing some time for doing some unethical behavior or misuse of power by taking, getting rewards or compensated for something outside. They're just using their power for influence and they're getting paid for it. Okay, so we have these factors. Now, how do I improve business ethics? Top management, unconditionally support ethics. You have to be the champion, the leader, the manager. Even if for the whole company, for your department, it all comes down. So you have to be very ethical. Managers and others must be trained. Ethics office must be set up. So you have to have if I'm unethical, who do you report it to? You have to have a certain, and usually when you have officers or everything else, it's medium to larger organization. Or in a smaller organization, you may one person may be the HR, ethics, and everything else, and finance. And usually not finance, but they're usually wrapped up and do several other things in there. Involve outsiders, subcontractors, so everyone knows your ethical policies. Okay, and encourage whistleblowers. And yeah, and that's kind of bad. You know, if you look, there's laws protecting whistleblowers, but sometimes the whistleblower doesn't know. Am I going to have the protection? And is my back going to be protected from the organization? That's why when you have the ethic officer and everything else, you could work through that thing. If you have the whole process procedure, it lets employees know, yes, it's safe to turn in or other individuals within the organization that are ripping up the company, ripping up the customers, or doing unethical practices. Okay, so you have that. How to prevent unethical behavior, and there's a whole lot of them. Code of ethics, and this is what is acceptable, what's not. Because when you look at the other ones, remember, individuals, we come from different backgrounds. What I may think is ethical or unethical, another culture, another subgroup of my own culture may say, no, George, you're pushing the envelope. That's not really unethical practices. Accountability must be taken as seriously at all levels. Organizations must act fast when a crisis occurs. Most of the problems with ethics that you'll find out through all the research and everything else is that most people are very ethical. They do poor decisions, or they do something they messed up or push the line and now they're afraid and start covering up. By this covering up, what happens is they cover up, and then all of a sudden they have to cover up more. So something that was small ends up larger and larger, and before you know it, they're already way over their head, and they've are labeled, and they've already done so many other things to hide a small infraction, or maybe it may not be that small, but still an infraction. Instead of just coming up front and say, hey, I messed up, I did this wrong, I'm sorry, ask for forgiveness, ask for punishment, whatever, and let's move forward. And that gives you more integrity. That gives you more, from a managerial perspective, somebody comes up to me and states something like that, I understand, hey, he made a mistake, we all make a mistake, he wasn't thinking, or he just made the wrong decision, let's go, did he learn, or did she learn from that, okay? So cause out ethicals, corporate social responsibility. Let's talk about corporate social responsibility. When I look at corporate social responsibility, that is always tied with ethics. Because a lot of times when somebody messes something else, what's the first thing they do? They give to the charitable organization to make up for it. Okay, but when you look at corporate responsibility, what responsibility does an organization have to all its stakeholders? And remember, stakeholders are everyone outside the organization. It could be the union, it could be the my neighbors, it could be other my competitors, it could be the government. Anybody who the organization touches a stakeholder. Now, to be corporately responsible, do I pollute the environment? Do I make my product, or knowing, sometimes we pollute or we do stuff as a business not knowing that there is any dangers associated because everyone gave us a stamp of approval. But let's say for some reason something's going on and I realize, oh geez, we're using a chemical or something else that's causing cancer or it's polluting the water. What do? I try, first of all, you got to stop that behavior. But if I stop, it's going to cost me more. And now what I have to do is, that's where you come into the ethical dilemma. What is the right course of action? Do I just let it slide, or do I compensate, or come forward? And that's something where you have to look at the ethics. When you have integrity, you basically say, we messed up, let's go forward. Let's see how I could do damage control and regain the trust and everything else back. I think you'll get more of a trust from an organization if you come up and tell them, basically outright saying we messed up, and your customers will believe you because they say, hey, they messed up and they weren't forced to do the recall. Okay, now the other thing with your corporate policy and everything else is, like, how much do I give to charities, how much do I look out for the environment? And we should. It makes good business sense to be corporately responsible. Okay, so philanthropy. Now, the reason anything you see in yellow, you may see on an exam. If you see philanthropy, philanthropy is just a business word for charity giving. Because in charity, I may give, but I may give because I could get a tax write-off. Just like a lot of people may give because of a tax write-off. I may give because I could use it as a marketing campaign. Look, I gave so much to improve the environment. I'm totally green. I use alternative fuels. You know what I mean? Whatever item I'm giving that I'm giving to my constituents, to my stakeholders, I could also write off on it. So that's why we utilize philanthropy on that. Okay, social initiatives, enhanced forms of philanthropy, providing a safe work environment, and social initiatives should be over here. Safe work environment. Okay, now. How do I know I'm socially responsible? I send out a survey. A survey sent out to everyone I touch. My suppliers, my union, my employees, my customers, my residents, my neighbors, even though they may not come to me. So everyone I touch, I say, how am I doing as an organization? Walmart does that. A lot of larger organizations. They'll get the feedback back. If they come back with the feedback and say, hey, we're doing pretty good, and then you're going to say, hey, that's perfect, so we're on the right course. Or just saying you're making too much noise in the morning. It's upsetting. If you notice at Walmart, a lot of times there's no delivery trucks in the morning. There's no delivery trucks allowed to park, even in the parking lot with the engine running, because they're usually around the neighborhood of residents. And the truck noise and everything else. So they are instructed. At 8 o'clock is when delivery starts coming, and that's the normal time most people are up and everything else, all right? So do you see, and they receive that kind of information from social audits, okay? So if I look at social audits real quickly, it's just an evaluation process. Now, the other one things that you have to look from a business, what keeps me as a business owner in check? Remember, the business model is that my loyalty is to my owners and my stockholders, because they hired me in management or in business to utilize resources and provide a good return of investment. But I have socially conscious investors who are saying, hey, you're polluting, you're making this. I have environmentalists, you have customers, and union officials. All these, don't look at them and say, oh, I don't want to. This is what helps us out as an organization to make sure that I am walking that straight line. I'm not only looking at profits. I mean, I should always look at profit, but I'm not taking the easy way and get those profits at the cost of polluting the air or damaging or doing something to the environment or to some other class of individuals that I shouldn't. Okay, so that's what the social audit tells me. And then if you look at that Kennedy's Basic Rights from Consumer, you know that when you buy a product, it should be workable and everything else. Inside Trader. Let's look at Inside Trader. I only have like 8 more minutes, and I think we could go. I'm going real quickly. Remember, you have to read the chapter, utilize my concept maps while you're reading, put out your own notes, look at the PowerPoints, and now you basically see the whole picture. These are all the key vocab words and everything else you're going to be utilizing when you're doing your feasibility study, and you have to have business terms and everything else. So Inside Trader means that I work for a large corporation. I know the company is going to go belly up. No one knows that yet. Maybe the board of directors knows, but it hasn't been published publicly yet. So what do? I start selling my shares. I got rid of them, and then when it's announced, and then when people want to sell, because the company's still good, very high price for my shares, but then once the announcement comes, it drops down, it's worthless. But I got out of it. So Inside Trader means I have an advantage over the general public, and if you look at the free competitive market, we should be all equal. Just because I know it and I have shares in it, I'm getting rid of it before it's announced, that is a violation and unethical policy for an individual. So the government looks at who's buying shares and what else is transpiring at the same time with the organization. So if the organization is going belly up in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, because somebody already knew it within the organization, is getting rid of them. You know what I mean? And they're not looking if you have, like somebody told you got 10, 20 shares. It's still unethical, but the government's not going to fine you for that. They're looking for those that are selling all of a sudden, because companies or mutual funds or anything else, if they get a hold of this, they're selling maybe blocks like 1,000 shares or 10,000 shares, whatever number of shares for the large organization. Those are the ones they're looking at. Why all of a sudden he's a manager in this company is going bankrupt and he already sold all his shares, made $2 million or $3 million, and then next week he announced the company is going belly up. That's not fair. Do you see what I'm talking about? People bought those shares, and he had inside trader against the law. That's what the Securities and Exchange (SEC) is basically. When we'll learn later on other chapters, is what controls to make sure is the legal arm of the government. Okay, when it deals with corporations and everything else, and stocks and everything else. Okay, responsibility to the customers. Treats customers with respect and everything else. Offers salaries, benefits. That's all part of the ethics and corporate responsibility. Society, environment, dependent from funding others. Many companies try to minimize the carbon footprints. Disposable contributions, renewable energy. All these things as an organization. Look, if I'm throwing away trash and I just throw it away, why not recycle it? I could write it off as bring in a recycle program. I could even bring in something like you have Lamb's Farm, that's for disabled and disability people who have disabilities, but they'll bring them in. They're still functional. They're everything else. They may not be at the same cognitive level as a majority of society, but they are functional. So they'll come in here and they'll pick up all your trash and they won't charge you anything. They'll make their money off of what they get from the recycling. But you just have to give them access to that. Now, I've provided them access to that, so now I'm helping the environment, I'm recycling, I'm helping another cause. I may be able to write that off, but even if I don't write it off, I feel good about it. But the organization says, hey, look, I'm doing more to help people outside, to bring them into the community, to help the economic system. So now they're working, they're a productive member of society, and they're also spending money. Remember, I'm still a business. And that's Adam Smith theory. Remember, we had a few chapters back when we talked about economics, the invisible hand. Okay, so we have that, and that works out well. And then we have thinking green. Everyone's thinking green. Be careful. Some companies will put the green symbol up there, and they are not environmentally green. That's where these, what do you call it, four social watchdogs come in on here. Okay, they'll catch me on that. Okay, so once I catch that, so if they're ripping me off on that, telling me I'm green, I'm not green, I'm falsely advertising. I have people that are only going to buy conscientious from conscientious companies, and now my name, my brand name, and everything else has been tarnished. Okay, international ethics. Now here's where it comes in, because when we talked in the global chapters, or we talked in chapter 4, the last chapter we reviewed, we have to work in a lot of companies, a lot of different organizations. Now here's where the issue comes in. First of all, I have to have ethical. I have certain moral values, but I know certain countries, they're very corrupt. I mean, we all have corruptions. I mentioned the governors before, but they're so corrupt. For me to do business, I got to pay off somebody. But if I'm paying off someone here, because what we learned in chapter 3, in the global, they have the policy that I have to basically, the law says that I have to follow the ethics and the moral, the standards and everything else of the U.S. Hosts. To show, because we're supposed to be the leader in business globally. So I can't be unethical. So what do? I'm in a dilemma. That's ethical dilemma. I want to do business, but I got to pay off somebody. And some, how do I write this off? And some organizations, and a lot of times it works well. There's no other way around it. You can find some companies within even countries that are very corrupt, but you have companies that still have a basic ethical principle. But if not, I hire an agent, and an agent basically makes sure everything goes through, and he or she, for a fee, does all the payments and everything else. Because remember, what we talked about when we talked about organizational individuals, they should have another one in here that I would have added in here, and I would have looked at global business, international, because international they have a different value of what they consider ethics. Because as developing countries are growing, they're developing their ethics, their moral fibers are either going one way or the other. Eventually, because of the society, the environment as a whole, they'll try to bring everyone back so they at least have what we call global ethics and global social responsibilities. Okay, so we have that, and this ethical culture class again. This ties into chapter 3 that we talked about. Live outside the U.S. Different cultures have a different value of ethics. Our morals are different than morals in Saudi Arabia. Our values and morals may be a little different than in Mexico. Our values and morals may be different in some other countries, different than in China. But overall, we all have basic values that we should treat everyone equally, family, don't rip anyone else off, don't harm anyone. Like it or not, and I hate to use it, but the basic 10 commandments, for lack of better words, or the principle they talk about, what do you call it? Not the principle, the golden principle. When I'm looking at the golden principle, is basically treat others as you want to be treated. Okay. So when I look at the ethics, did I buy? Did I steal from anyone? Did I kill anyone? Did I rip off anyone? Did I intentionally did anything else? You know, a majority of them, and it may not be all of them. Okay. Now, in general, so what do you have? Basic ethics, basic moral values, right or wrong. Ethics, standards, moral values by society, wider range by laws, situational ethics, enforced in courts or labor, business, and all. Ethics is a little different. Now, let me just go real quickly. I've got 2 more minutes, and I'm going to stop this. If I look at, let's look at, is ethics above the law or ethics below? If it's legal, is it ethical? Let's look at that one. Abortion. Abortion in the United States is legal. You can get an abortion because that's the law. Is it ethical? If I'm a woman and it's my right, my body, because that's my position, right? I want to have an abortion. Depending, I'm not talking about. I'm depending on at what time of stage, whatever the law says. Okay, okay. So then it's okay. But let's say if I am a Christian, I'm a Muslim, or I'm whatever, you know, even a different type of a religion or anything else that have different moral values, and they'll say that abortion is not acceptable. It is it's not moral. So even though it's legal, it still could be unethical for a certain type of individual, certain class or subclass. Do you see what I'm talking about? Vice versa. And remember, the ethics, our moral value, is basically what brings on our laws. So if I look at our moral values or the society, the general, the good, when you look at utilitarian social responsibility that's talked about in this book, it basically what's good for the best of the society. So in a democratic society, and if the society, the democracy says, let us abortion, we think it should be legal, it should not be illegal, then basically the law is passed. Now down the road, society and culture could change, and they'll say, no, we don't think abortion is right. We find out more. Life starts earlier than we thought, the life starts later than we thought. Whatever. Look, I'm not taking any stand class. Remember, I'm not taking any stand or anything else. I'm a business person. I'm trying to explain. So when you're doing something in business, and even though legally by the law you could sell this product, legally by the law you could do this, but your customers may say, hey, that is unethical. I don't think you should do that. You're stretching the line. Do you see what I mean? So some companies have to look at that. Remember, you get in the dilemma. It's legal, but my customer base, because let's say if I'm selling everything else to religious groups, and it doesn't make a difference if I'm Jewish, I'm Muslim, or I'm a Christian, I'm selling them. I'm a business person. So I know they got different moral values, and then all of a sudden I'm selling something that for them may be an issue because of their religion or because of their doctrine. I have to be careful. Legally I could do it, but do I want to do it? You see the dilemma? So some businesses may take that action or may sell that product or may do that. So, and it depends how the law, remember, culture changes. And every culture is a little different, so when you're doing global, you have to know the ethical morals of that country, and you have to take our ethical morals, and sometimes a lot of times they're going to clash, but the U.S. says that we have to basically follow our rules and our morals, even when we're doing business internationally. All right? So again, my name is Dr. George Mochocki. This is Chapter 4, An Introduction to Business, offered by online or in face-to-face class. It's a mini lecture, okay, for my online classes. All right, have a nice day, and I'll see you in a little bit for Chapter 5, which is different types of businesses. Have a nice day. Bye.